Good morning. How are you all today? Well, this is the first video of our 21-22 school year. And the very first thing that I want you all to do is to grab your notebook, grab your writing utensil, whether it's a pen or a pencil, and make sure you take good notes because you will need these notes for this particular standard throughout the year. Also, pay very close attention. Anytime you see my eyes right here, this means that you need to have this done before you come to class. This is our pre-work indicator, okay? So I want you all to take a few minutes to stop, to think, puzzle, and explore. What do you think you know about citing evidence? You're going to answer that in a complete sentence. And you're also going to tell me what questions or puzzles do you have about citing evidence. In other words, when you are thinking about citing evidence, what are the things that confuses you? What are the things that you don't feel confident in and why? How might we explore the puzzles and the questions that we have around citing evidence? So what are some steps that you think we can take so that we can explore those things that causes you to be a little bit reluctant or those things that causes you to have questions. How can we explore that? What steps do you think we need to take? So go ahead and pause the video, and once you're finished, come back and play the video, okay? All righty. So, reading closely to determine what a text says explicitly and to make logical inferences from it. This is what this particular standard will be discussing. This is the meat of it, okay? You may hear me say, eat the meat and spit out the bones. And basically, what that means is we focus on the most important. You may have a lot of words around a particular passage or a particular sentence, but we're going to focus on what's important. We're going to eat that meat and spit the bones. So again, you see the eyes, and you know that means that it's pre-work. So that means you have to answer these questions before you come to class. We will discuss these questions in class. So I'm going to go ahead and read over your objective with you, or your performance-based objective with you. And I want you to take a minute to pause the video and answer those questions after we finished, okay? Students will be able to cite strong textual evidence in order to support an analysis of what the text says explicitly and to support inferences drawn from the text. This is our Tennessee standard. It's going to help us with understanding the key ideas in the text, okay? Alrighty, so go ahead and pause the video, and then I want you to answer those questions. What skills do you think we're learning? I'm going to give you a hint. Skills are the things that we will be able to do. How will we know that you've learned these skills? So after we've learned these skills, what can we do with the skills that we learn? And why is it important for us to learn it? I want you to think outside of the school sector. How will this help you in life? How will this help you in your relationship with your parents? How will this help you with your relationship with your friends? Okay? All righty. So go ahead and pause and make sure you have this before you come to class. Let's focus on a few of our power words, okay? So, on all of our objectives, our slides that have our objective, I will always have a definition box for you. So, excuse me, let me grab some water, okay? So, when we think about our skill is citing strong textual evidence, okay? And so, when we are citing evidence, we're basically given a quote, okay? So we're given a quote that's going to support what we are saying. We're given a quote that's going to support what we're saying. And not only what we're saying, but our thoughts around what we've read, okay? We're given a quote. We're giving or we are referring to evidence, and our evidence will always come from the text to support what we are thinking about what the text explicitly says. And explicitly means saying it clearly, is stating it. You don't have to assume. And to support our inferences. So we know our inferences is what bring to uh, um, we bring to the table, we bring to our reading. We'll talk more about inferences a little bit later in our slide. And remember, everything is going to be drawn from the text. Everything is going to be drawn from the text. Okay? All right. So let's do a little bit of activating your knowledge. Here's a picture of a murder weapon left at the scene of a crime. Now, I am being accused of this crime. In addition to the murder weapon, what other evidence should the prosecuting attorney provide to support his allegations against me? So we're going to look at it. And I know that you guys are like yelling out answers right now. Some of you all may say fingerprints, video footage of me fleeing the scene, which is this right here, or an eyewitness, right? Someone who's saying that I was there. Now, between the three, which one is the strongest and most compelling? And when I'm saying most compelling, I mean having a powerful effect on something. Which one has a powerful effect on something? So when you're selecting evidence, you should always want to select the most compelling, the one that has the most powerful, supportive effect on your thoughts, your beliefs, or your opinion. So if we're looking at this, an eyewitness, all three of these are indeed supportive evidence, right? Yes, you can have a videotape of me fleeing the scene, but what happened if uh, this video caught me at a bad angle? What happened if this eyewitness is someone who doesn't really like me? Or what happened if I was dressed like someone and this eyewitness is not 100% sure, but she's like, I think it's her. What about these fingerprints? Can we argue with fingerprints? And why not? Because the fingerprints, if my fingerprints were found on that murder weapon, this would be the most compelling evidence against me because all of us have fingerprints. Well, the majority of us in the world have fingerprints, and our fingerprints are uniquely ours. No one else in this world have my fingerprints. Okay. All righty. So very, very good. So now let's activate your prior knowledge on inferences. Okay. So previously, excuse me, I mentioned selecting the most compelling evidence to support your thoughts, beliefs, or your opinion. This also includes your inferences and conclusions drawn from the text. You may have heard of an inference as an educated guess, but it's way more than that. See, when you make an inference, you use the information that you're reading and you make a judgment. Yes, sweethearts, you guys become judges. You use that information and you make a judgment about that. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to read this little passage right here, okay? And then I want you to select your answer choice, okay? Read and select your answer choice. Now remember, I want you to use what you already know. You already make inferences. It's just adding to what you've already learned from this text. No, you didn't read this text, and I purposely did this because I want to show you how easy making inferences are. All right, sweetheart. So you had time to read. Now let's look at the, excuse me, let's look at your example or I want to call it like your thinking gears. It says, Madam Shaw seems to regard Polly more warmly than she did the other children. Which sentence best supports this statement? So here we have an inference. The inference is, okay, Madam Shaw regards Polly more warmly than she did the other children. The text does not outright say this. So now I need to have some evidence to support my statement, my claim, my belief, my thought. All right. So let's look at our answer choices. So if you chose A, while this sentence shows that Madam Shaw initially is warm towards Polly, it demonstrates Polly's level of anxiety around her. It does. So yes, this could have been it, but we're also looking at Polly's interaction as well. So if you chose B, this sentence shows Polly respect for Madam Shaw, but it doesn't show that she also feels a strong connection towards her. And if we look at C, although this sentence demonstrates Polly's preferring to be with Madam Shaw rather than Tom, it does not show that there's a strong connection. So when we have that word regard means to hold highly, okay? Um, and kind of like high esteem. We're going to hold you up. And then more warmly, those words give us a connotation, a feeling of love, a feeling of security, of someone feels safe. So let's look at D. The fact that Polly feels comfortable enough to lean on Madam Shaw after her initial uh, reflection, it shows that, well, Polly can lean on Mrs. Shaw. And think about when you lean on your parents. What it does, it shows that, oh, this person loves me and I love this person. So it shows that Polly's is growing a warm sense of connection to Mrs. Shaw. Okay. So we see that it's both people. We're looking at the clues in the text. Okay. So whenever we're inferring, know this: we're using the clues in the text to create a judgment. All right? All right. And again, I just want to remind you that we're learning how to cite strong and thorough textual evidence to support our analysis and our inferences. So, what is an inference? Well, an inference is a logical assumption based on based on observations, facts from the text. I'm sorry, y'all, I'm reading and it's like super early in the morning. So basically, a inference is a logical assumption based on observed facts from the text and one own's knowledge. So let's look at this chart right here, or your experience. And here's the thing about experience. Experience oftentimes provides wisdom for us. So it's the information from the text, it's what you read, and then it's what you know, it's your schema, what you know, what you're bringing to that information. And then it's your judgment. So an inference is not written in the text. If it's written in the text, then that's when it's explicitly stated. It is made from using your background knowledge on a particular subject. Whatever we're discussing in this text, whatever subject that you see in this text, you're using what you know about that text. Here's the truth: there are going to be times that you read things that you don't know anything about. You don't know anything about that subject. This is why we read. This is why we read. Reading helps to build background knowledge. It helps to build knowledge. Now, it may not be true. Your inference may not be true. It may be true, but we use the information that is there. Okay, we use the information that's there to come up with our our inferences. Think of it as an assumption. Now, inferences and assumptions, they are closely related. Okay. So if you can assume things about people based on what you see, what you heard, what you read, you can draw an inference, sweetheart. You do it all the time. So again, we just activated your prior knowledge. And the example, I know that you're more confident now. I know that you know how to make inferences now because you make assumptions about people. So let's review our concept. We know that inferences are logical. Logical. So here's what I want you to write down. I want you to write down the word logical. Then I want you to write down sensible way of thinking. So does it make sense? Does it make sense? When we say assumptions, we're basically saying something that is accepted as true. Okay? And again, we use this information from the text to draw the inferences. If it's written in the text, and I'm repeating myself because I want you all to know that this is important. If it's written in the text, it's not an inference. If it's written in the text, it's not an inference. If it's written in the text, it's not an inference. Okay? Inferences are implicit. That means it's not stated. It's based on clues. There will be words and phrases, just like in our example, in our text, that will support what you are inferring, what you're thinking. Let's look at our example. Which quotes best supports the idea that Papa is not sympathetic to Mama's homesickness? Okay? Excuse me. So Papa tried to nudge Mama out of her nostalgia sometimes. He would answer her in English when she spoke to him in Spanish. His English was not very good at first, but he worked at it until it got better. So remember, we're trying to draw an inference, right? We're trying to draw an inference. We're trying to figure out, well, we've drawn an inference. Our inference is Papa's not sympathetic to Mama. We read this. We read paragraph 4 from our text, and we said, mm, mm, mm. How did we come to that conclusion? What is something that we read in paragraph 4 from Music for My Mother that helped us to draw that inference? So when I read it, I'm looking at Papa tried to nudge. When I think of nudge to me is like a shaking, right? So he tried to shake her out of her nostalgia. Well, I know that nostalgia is a pleasure or a sadness that happens when someone is remembering something from their past and that they long to experience that again. So he's pushing Mom out of her sadness about returning home or being at home. She loves being at home. And we know that this is one reason why her son plays the music for her. When he plays the guitar, he plays her favorite type of music because it soothes her. All right, let's talk about textual evidence, sweetheart. So again, our concept, we are talking about citing textual evidence that's going to support your analysis. When we talk about textual evidence, what we're asking you for is the information used to support whether your belief or your proposition is true or and valid. You will provide information that will support what you're saying. Going back to our crime scene, you can have different types of you can have more than um, one passage, one word, one statement that supports what you said, but you always want the most compelling. Always want the most compelling. You want the piece of evidence that is going to be hard for me or anyone else to debunk, okay? So when we're talking about evidence, there are different types of evidence that can be found in your text. You got descriptions, you got details on plots, characters and settings. We got a narrative voice. We got the structure of the text. We got events. We have facts. We have actions, reactions. We have um, imagery. So when we're thinking about the evidence in the text, think about your diddle sheets. And this is why we annotate. This is why we annotate. So, three primary ways to present your evidence to me in your writing, and not just in my class, because you write in all your classes. You can use a direct quote. You're going to pull specific words, phrases, sentences, or paragraphs from the text. Now, we're going to talk about you guys pulling the whole paragraph a little later, okay? Paraphrase it. You could translate it and put it in your own words. You could summarize the information. Now, let's do a check for understanding here. Okay, so how does summarizing the quote helps us to present evidence? What does it do? What does it do? Think about when you're summarizing a movie. If I asked you all, have you seen the last Fast and Furious? Or, I don't know, the latest Marvel movie? Um, you guys say, yeah, and then you summarize it for me. What does that do for me? What does that do for you? Okay? And we'll talk a little bit more about that in class. Now, let's do a little bit of practicing, okay? As you may have noticed, you have some academic vocabulary boxes throughout the slides. If I were you, I would go back and I will make sure that I wrote down these vocabulary words. We know when we're talking about analysis, we're talking about you breaking things into smaller components for the purpose of study and examination. And I'm going to add something there. When you're analyzing something, you're trying to see how these things work together. How do they work together? So when we want to cite strong textual evidence so that we can support our analysis, our thoughts, our inferences, first of all, we're going to read the text. Then we're going to determine what the text is saying by annotating those key words and phrases. And then we're going to ask ourselves, what does this mean? What does it matter? Then after you've identified any keywords and phrases, make sure it supports your analysis, your inferences, and then make sure you're able to explain your inferences. This is what we're going to do in class when we recap. So this is after dinner. My older brother likes to play the guitar. He preferred the music he heard on the radio, but he played the traditional song for mom. She enjoys things that remind her of home. Here we go. Well, we probably can do this here. So again, we know that mom is in a different country, correct? And she enjoys things that remind her of home. What is it in words that you just learned? Right, nostalgia. So mom is nostalgic about these things. And so what the older brother is doing, he is actually soothing mom. He's making mom happy, right? He's pleasing her. So we how did we identify the inference in this question? And I didn't put the question up here because we read and we're determining what the text is saying. So I can infer that mom is homesick because the older brother, is playing the guitar for her, which reminds her of home. That's my inference. You see how I did that? I'm going to ask you to do that throughout the next text, okay? Alrighty, so let's talk about how you guys will be graded and also how you will see some sample question stems and the task demand. So this is how you guys will be graded whenever we do the standard. I'm moving into standard-based grading, okay? So a level 5 is an A, level 4 is a B, level 3 is a C, level 2 is a D. So you did not hear me say what? That's right. You didn't hear me say F. Here's the thing. I just need for you to try. Okay? So level 2 says cite textual evidence to support an analysis of what the text says explicitly, as well as simple inferences drawn from the text. Okay? Are you doing this with help? Okay? Am I helping you? If I am helping you, then you will be a level 2. But I want us to focus on level 3 and 4. I want you to be able to cite strong and thorough, and that's the difference between the 2 and the 3. Let me tell you what you need to get to a level 3. You will need 2 pieces of textual evidence, 2 pieces of strong textual evidence, 2 pieces of strong textual evidence that support what you are saying. Okay? So you might have to select a sentence or a phrase from the text. You're going to draw inferences from the text. Now, when we are taking our assessments, you may have the part A, part B questions, and it may give you something like select two words or phrases on the passage that supports an idea that the character was. For example, the mom was nostalgic. So that means you would have to go and find two ideas. Or what's a quote that can support an idea about the character? Okay. What's a character's point of view? So make sure you become familiar with these achievement levels because I want you guys to be at a 3 or 4. I'm not expecting everyone to be at a 5 right now, but you will be. Alrighty, sweethearts. Well, that ends our first video. This is 25 minutes long. Typically, I try to say under 20, but it's so much that you all need to know. Alrighty, sweeties. That is it. See you in class.